Active duty, reserves, AGR. What's the difference and which one do you need to join? Coming up. Hey, welcome to the channel, friends. As always, man, I am super stoked and pumped up to see you. I'm telling you, and I see you out there. Dude called me out and said, "Can you see me?" I don't even know what you're talking about. And he's like, "Oh, well, you just always say that you can see me." I wish I could, man. I wish we could have this conversation face to face. But I had a really good question about a dude who said, he's about 40 and he's thinking about entering the reserves, and he wanted to know what that relationship would be like. A, as an older dude, but B, really, that relationship between reserve and active component. Hey, we're going to talk about relationships. We're going to talk about training. We're going to talk about all kinds of things to figure out which one is better than another, if there is such a thing, and how all of these agencies work and get along or not get along together, and what that was like. And I got to tell you, a long time ago, back in my early heydays, I couldn't understand the reserves at all. Part of me still can't, but part-time warriors type of thing. And there's, I don't know, just young, dumb ignorance and pride, I guess, at the end of the day. But the reason I couldn't get it, especially when I was going through boot camp, because we had some dudes who were going reserves, I was like, "Man, you're going through 3 months of hell to do this part-time? You're smoking crack, man. What are we doing? You should be doing this full-time if you're going to go through all this." But I think some of my perspective got changed when I was actually assigned to an ACRC unit in the Army. So ACRC, Reserve Component and Active Component, ACRC, are units that are out there that work together full time. And in this particular one, I was overseas, and I didn't know what I was going to walk into. I knew part of it. I was judging a little on the front end of, hey, these dudes are going to be, they're not going to know how to soldier for nothing. And, they're going to have all kinds of discipline problems. They probably don't even know how to do their jobs and all kinds of things. And in so many ways, I was right about, not being able to do things like PT or drill and ceremony or some basic soldier and army things, because they don't do these things a lot. But I was wrong about their JOB, about their job. See, these dudes do their job all the stinking time. A lot of them do their job as a full-time job in the civilian market. And they do what they do a lot. And these guys, they were savvy. They knew what the hell they were doing. I was super impressed with what they brought to the table. They were way smarter than I am. So I did. I worked with these dudes for about a year, and I left with a different perspective. And I got to tell you, if you're older, I've known dudes who were 30 and even upwards of 40 when they first came in active duty, and these people were absolutely value added to the team, and I don't recall ever seeing anybody that really looked down or judged them because they had a few more years and miles under the hood, if you will. And if you're concerned about the relationship between active and reserve component, it's going to be there until, like almost all things, until you experience it, until you actually walk through it. Because once you start getting into these places where you're living it and you're walking through these things, that's when our perspective starts to change. And once you get into these places, man, you're gonna have great times, good times, great times, man. I'm telling you. So I encourage you, if you're a little bit older in life, to get out there and you have this desire to serve, man, go out and do it. Go out and do it. Don't live with regrets. Don't live with regrets. Don't look back and say, "I wish I woulda, coulda, I shoulda." If it's something that you want to do, then do it and see what happens. All right, but there is another group that's out there, and it's kind of a hidden component, and it's the AGR, and you have to be reserved to go AGR, or you have to be guard. So AGR is just active guard, and these are dudes who work full time, but they're reserve component and guard component. But you get all the pay of being active duty, but you're living in, you know, small town USA, and it's absolute gold mine. So if that's something that you can get into, that's pretty dope. Right, so, you know, when it comes to things like training, I think you'll find that regardless of the component, whether you're AC or RC, that you're going to have the same opportunities for training. You know, you'll see a lot of dudes who are reserve getting into a lot of schools. And there's a lot of schools out there that they actually may have more access to than we do, especially on the civilian side of the house and some of the money that they have. You know, if you want to deploy, a lot of dudes that were in that RC unit when they were called to active duty, so they were put on Title 10 orders, and so 32 is going to cover all of those regulations for the reserve and guard components, and Title 10 is when you become active duty and active component. So, you know, they have a lot easier way of deploying if they wanted to. One of the dudes I was working with had 18 years, and he at good years, so towards retirement. So basically 18 active duty years, but he's reserve, and most of that time he had spent deploying, and so he just went on and went from one deployment to another, and he was really enjoying himself. But you know, I'm sure active duty at the end of the day really has more schools and more options. But you know, the odds of getting into more than one school a year, if you're active, is going to be slim to nil. And that's kind of the golden rule, right, for military trainings to get into a school a year, whether it's hazmat, CLS, you know, UMO, SHARP, EO, MRT, whatever it is. But the same needs for this training exist out in the reserve as well. I mean, they have to have all of these things too. So they get all the same schooling requirements. And of course, you know, when it comes time to actual deploying, we all wear the same uniform and we all fight towards the same thing, to protect and serve the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, right? And so there is a deep brotherhood, I think, regardless of who served, when they served, how they served, what component they served with or in, you know, whether they're fat bodies in the National Guard or whether they're skinny bodies on active duty. Something to be said, and I'm certainly one to say thank you for your service, and I think there's a lot of dudes out there who are going to say the exact same thing. So again, you know, I know at the end of the day, which one's better than another? Neither one, man. Which one? The one that you're in is the best one. The unit that you're assigned to is the best unit. The people that you work with are the best people. And if it's not the best unit, make it so. And if they're not the best people, then work towards building a better team and a better organization, and see if magic doesn't happen. Man, I hope you enjoyed the content of the video. If you did, make sure you like it, subscribe to the channel, and click that notification bell so you can stay up to date on some future content. Leave some comments down below, man, and we will keep this conversation rolling. And as always, man, until then, you stay stoked.